How many of you know the prayer by the Srinivasacharya, the 6 Goswamis? Nana Shastra Vikardanai Panipana. I think it's the second of the 8 verses on Sad Goswami Gastakam. So we'll sing that. It's just one verse and we'll just chant it. But before we do, we'll chant Prabhupada's pranam. Namaho Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Krishna Prestaya Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravhari Pracharini Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastyatyaris Dharine Nana Shastra Vikaranai Panipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitrakarina Tribhuvane Manyo Saranyakaro Saranyakaro Hara Krishna Vicharanai Panipano Dharma Samstapako Vajanam Nandena Mathaviko Bandhe Rupa Sanatan Ho Raguyago Sri Jiva Gopala Go Sri Jiva Bandhe Rupa Sanatan Ho Raguyago Sri Jiva Gopala Go Sri Jiva Hara Shastra Vicharanai Panipano Sadharma Samstapako Kanham hitrakarina tribhuvane manyo saranya karo manyo saranya karo Radha Krishna Chaitanya Panipano Dena Mataliko Aravinda Bhajanan Dena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanhatana Raghuyago Sri Jiva Gopal Sri Jiva Gopal Sad Goswami Astakam Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Gyan Timirandasya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tatsmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Today is the disappearance day of Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And they are the contemporaries of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they expanded Lord Chaitanya's mission in different ways. One, by writing books on the philosophy of Sanatana Dharma. And Prabhupada says that all of the books written by the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are based on the Shikshastakam prayers. Those 8 verses that Lord Chaitanya gave were compacted into the whole science of pure devotional service. So that was expanded and expanded upon by the 6 Goswamis in their different writings, especially Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. Gopal Bhatta Goswami also wrote, but not much. But he's famous for other things. And today is his disappearance day. It's called Tirobhav. We honor a great soul for his appearance and for disappearance, but more important of the two is the disappearance, because it's understood that they have established their teachings, their examples of pure devotional service. So now when they disappear is a great loss. Their parents herald something wonderful, but no one knows about them until they actually do their work. So the appearance day is important, but not as important as the disappearance day. In fact, in India, in the culture and tradition, in the strict Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya cultures, disappearance days are given 3 days of celebrations. The day before the actual day, and then the day after. So in those 3 days, they just speak the glories of that person who disappeared. So disappearance days are considered a little bit more glorious, or what we say ceremonious, than the appearance days of the great souls. So there's Gopal Bhatta Goswami. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's very little mentioned about Gopal Bhatta Goswami. In fact, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who is the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, was instructed by Gopal Bhatta Goswami not to mention his name. But out of natural love for such a great soul, he indicates a few things about him, but doesn't extensively describe his life like that. This is the humility of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He didn't want people to know his. In other words, he didn't want to be glorified. It says one of the qualities of a great soul is that they find it not aversion, but they're not attracted, nor they're inspired by their hearing their own glories, like that, or having other people hear about their own glories. Jai Sri Kishore Kishori Ki Jai. So, but one thing we know about Gopal Bhatta Goswami is that there's one beautiful song sung by, I can't remember the Acharya who sang it, but he mentions the different leaders of the mass that glorify a particular incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and their form is Radha and Krishna. So we sing Jai Radha-ramana, Radha-ramana, Shri Radhe. Jai Radha-ramana, Radha-ramana, Shri Radhe. Gopal Bhatta Prandana Hai, Gopal Bhatta Prandana Hai. Jaya Radha-ramana, Radha-ramana, Shri Radhe. Brahmana, Radha-ramana, Shri Radhe. So practically, we can understand from today's culture that one of the most popular, or if not the most popular deity in Vrindavan is Sri Radha-ramana. Jai Sri Kishore Kishore Ki Jai. And that deity was worshipped by and appeared to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. All the other Goswamis of Vrindavan had Krishna deities. Gopal Bhatta Goswami did not. Gopal Bhatta Goswami had many, many Shalagram Shilas. There's a nice story on how he went to the Gandaki River in the Himalayas to achieve some Shilas. And when he got there and he was looking for Shilas, he had a realization that this is the home of the Lord. I'm going to take him out of his home. This is not right. He traveled all the way, and then he realized I shouldn't be taking the Lord out of his, what we say, designated place of residence, the Gandaki River high in the Himalayas. So, but what happened is the shalagrams kept jumping back into his pocket or into his pouch. So although the Lord, he was feeling like, oh, this is not right, still the Lord wanted to go. So seeing that the Lord wanted to go, he collected, I believe, 12 Shilas. And he brought him back to Vrindavan and started worshiping. But he was feeling a little marginalized, you might say, a little less happy that all the other Goswamis had Radha Krishna deities, and he didn't. So one night, that night was actually Nrsimha Chaturdasi, and he fell asleep, and the next morning, right there on his own altar was this beautiful deity of Raman. One of the Shilas had transformed himself into Ramanji. So that deity, Radha-ramana, is the deity, part of the Shila. The rock part of the Shila is still present. You can't see it when you take darshan, but it's there in the back. So Radha-ramana is actually the manifestation of the three main deities of Vrindavan, which is Madan Mohan, Govindaji, and Gopinath. Now, the process of bhakti is manifested in three aspects of itself: Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. Sambandha means relationship, which is the largest category of the Shastras, the Vedas. How to establish relationships in the proper way. What is my relationship with the Lord? What is my relationship with this material energy? What is my relationship with the spiritual master? What is my relationship with different categories of living entities in different species of life and in the human life itself? In other words, the foundation for successful execution of devotional service is based on proper understanding of relations. Without that, one cannot progress properly to Abhideya, which is the process itself. And Abhideya leads to Prayojana, which is the goal, which is Prema Pumartha Mahan, is to develop love for God. That is the goal of devotional service. So relationships, the execution of devotional service, and achieving the goal of devotional service are the three categories of all Vedic knowledge. And so these are represented by three deities: Madan Mohan, which is the Sambandha deity; Govindaji, which is the Abhideya deity; and Gopinath, which is the Prayojana deity. So these three deities of Vrindavan, Madan Mohan, Govindaji, and Gopinath, are considered the three main deities in Vrindavan, which establishes the principles of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Now there is an acharya for each one of them. For Madan Mohan it's Sanatana Goswami, and for Abhideya it's Rupa Goswami, and for Prayojana it's Raghunath Das Goswami. Like that. So this deity, Radha-ramanji, represents those three deities in one. It says he has the feet of Madan, he has the chest of Gopinath, he has the chest of Govindaji, and he has the face of Gopinath, like that. So if you were to compare and see those other deities, Madan Mohan is there, and Sanatana Goswami's temple there, and Rupa Goswami's Govindaji temple, which has been moved now to Jaipur. Govindaji is no longer in Vrindavan, he's in Jaipur, and that's when the Muslims invaded Vrindavan. He was taken for safekeeping and hidden in Jaipur. And Gopinath is also in Jaipur. He is also there. Have you been to Jaipur? Anybody been to Jaipur? Yeah. Did you visit any of those temples? And there's other, Radha Damodar is also there, Radha Vrindavan Chandra, Radha, a few other of the original deities of Vrindavan. So this deity, Radha-ramanji, is probably the most popular deity in all of Vrindavan. Every day the temple is filled up with pilgrims taking the darshan of Radha-ramana. And so that was the worshipful deity of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Gopal Bhatta Goswami was just a little boy when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling to South India. And he stopped at the Sri Ranganath temple and met three brothers, Trimala Bhatta, Venkata Bhatta, and Prabodhananda Saraswati. So these were three brothers, Prabodhananda Saraswati, Trimala Bhatta, and Venkata Bhatta. these three brothers were great Sri Vaishnavas. They were of the Sri Vaishnav line. And Lord Chaitanya stayed at the house of Venkata Bhatt, and Venkata Bhatt had a little son named Gopal. And Gopal was 7 years old at the time. You can still go to the house. That house is still there. It's been renovated. We were there in 2005, 2006 actually, 2005, 2006, right at the junction of the year. And we also went again in 2010 and 2011 to see, and it's a holy place because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed there for 4 months. During the rainy season, he followed that Chaturmasya. He didn't travel for 4 months. And during that time, the whole family of Venkata Bhatt served Lord Chaitanya very nice, especially his little son Gopal. And Gopal really became attached to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya became very much attached to him also, and gave him his blessings so many times. And then when Lord Chaitanya left, the boy was completely devastated. He couldn't live anymore. But later on, he joined the other Goswamis in Vrindavan, Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, and took shelter of their association and grew and became the famous Gopal Bhatta Goswami, like that. There's not too much about his life. He's interesting. He's written one book that we know of. I can't remember the name of it. Pujaris, maybe those of you who are Pujaris, you can. It's The Science of Deity Worship. Oh, okay. Well, give her the microphone. She said Hari Bhakti Vilas. But Hari Bhakti Vilas was started by Gopal Bhatta Goswami and finished by Sanatana Goswami. So when we speak of Hari Bhakti Vilas, we generally think of Sanatana Goswami. But actually it was originated by Gopal Bhatta Goswami and then finished by Sanatana Goswami. So, but there's another book. Hari Bhakti Vilas is fundamental and important for all grihastas to read. Its rules, regulations, activities, and different functions on how to perform different ceremonies, yagyas and various other things. So that book is available, Hari Bhakti Vilas, in various volumes. One can find it within the ISKCON library, like that. So Lord Chaitanya commissioned, or maybe it's the other way around. I think Lord Chaitanya commissioned Sanatana Goswami, and he started it, and Gopal Bhatta Goswami finished it. It's one way or the other, I'm not sure. I think it's because there is instructions in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Lord Chaitanya is talking to Sanatana Goswami, and he tells him to write one book and describe the rules and regulations of devotional service, the functions. Like it tells you when you first get up in the morning, what do? You immediately pay your obeisance to your spiritual master and to your worshipful deity. And then you get up and then you perform your rites of cleanliness, you brush your teeth, you take care of nature, and it all describes it in nature in very systematic ways. From the time you get up to the time you take rest at night, a system of activities is nicely delineated in Hari Bhakti Vilas. And there's other things, of course. It's quite an extensive shastra. But he wrote another one. The word Deepika is in the title, and it's the rules and regulations for worship of the deity. It's the foundation for ISKCON's teachings and rules and regulations for deity worship. So that book, I can't remember the name, it's got the word Deepika in it. Deepika means lamp or light. In there, it describes how to properly worship the deity, rules, regulations, and restrictions, like that. So we don't know too much about Gopal Bhatta Goswami. We know he is a great personality. Lord Chaitanya, after he gave instructions to Gopal to come to Vrindavan and associate with and learn from the Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, he was always in anxiety. When will Gopal Bhatta come? So one day he turns to his secretary, Swarup Damodar Goswami, and says, I'm still waiting for Gopal to come. And then from that, just as he was speaking, one messenger has come with a letter saying, coming from Vrindavan, that Gopal has arrived in Vrindavan and he has taken shelter of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. Like that. So these 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are the foundation for all of our teachings in Krishna consciousness. Our main books are Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which has been translated into Nectar of Devotion. Lagu Bhagavatamrita, which is a commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Jiva Goswami. Rupa Goswami did a commentary on his own work. And then many other shastras which are foundational for our practice in Krishna consciousness, especially Nectar of Devotion. Srila Prabhupada wanted the devotees in the ISKCON movement to read Nectar Devotion and study it and learn it in detail. In one lecture, he emphasizes the importance of Nectar Devotion, saying, read it once, read it twice, read it thrice. I remember when I first started Krishna consciousness, when I was a brand new brahmachari. In those days, when it was time for prasadam, everyone would sit down in lines on the floor and someone would serve, and there was no talking. And during that time, someone would read. And we would pick different scriptures, either, like Srimad Bhagavatam or something. And we didn't have much in those days. That was in 1973. So we did have Nectar Devotion. So I was commissioned to be the reader for lunch every day. And in that service, I was able to read Nectar of Devotion 5 times straight. In other words, reading a little bit each day, year after year, I completed Nectar Devotion 5 times, just by reading it. So that, for me, that was a great opportunity to get in touch with this great Shastra. But now we have to do it on our own. But it's a great science, that book. As Prabhupada said, Bhagavad Gita is non-different than Krishna. Bhagavad Gita is non-different than... Oh no, Prabhupada said Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different than Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita is non-different than Lord Chaitanya. And Nectar Devotion is non-different than Srimati Radha-ramana. It's the embodiment of pure devotional service in this summary study on the science of pure devotional service. And the first section deals with various principles and activities in devotional service. Second section goes on to the qualities of Krishna. The third section deals with rasas, and the fourth section deals with various mellows and intermixing of the different rasas in different ways. And so it's deep within the science of Krishna consciousness. So as practitioners in Krishna consciousness, that is a fundamental book to read and study. How many of you read it? Okay. I mean the entirety. The first 19 chapters are the foundation for the practice of devotional service. If you can read that and study it and get an understanding of it, right now we teach that in various, seminars and throughout. We teach Bhakti Shastra, and Bhakti Shastra consists of nectar devotion, nectar of instructions, Sri Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita. So in that nectar devotion section, the first 19 chapters are the main part of the presentation. And it's very interesting. And if you know nectar of devotion, you'll never have any problems in execution devotional service, because it's a great science. It's the science of applying principles given by the Lord and His pure devotees in the mood of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is a principle of fall down in devotional service. It's called niyamagraha. It's one of the things that destroys devotional service. Niyamagraha means following rules and regulations and not knowing why. Just doing it in a mechanical way with not on the understanding of what is the purpose and what is the results. And there's another term, which is niramagraha, with the emphasis on a different syllable, which means rejecting rules and regulations and acting whimsically and independently. So Rupa Goswami mentions this in his Nectar of Instructions as one of the ways to destroy one's bhakti. Not knowing why you do what you do, and therefore you don't know the results, or simply rejecting what is given and doing whatever you want to do in the name of devotional service, like that. So to avoid this niramagraha, we need to know what are the principles and how to apply the principles according to time, place, and situation, like that. So there's where nectar devotion comes in. And in 1972, Srila Prabhupada stopped his travels. He went to Vrindavan, and for 30 days, I think a whole month, he spoke on nectar devotion. And you can see that section. It was in October of 1972 in Vrindavan, October, November. And for one whole month he spoke only on nectar devotion. Those lectures are recorded. So, and then one of my godbrothers, very dear devotee and very learned devotee, Dhanadhar Maharaj, has written a book called Waves of Devotion, which is a commentary on nectar devotion, to bring out and more systematically and studying more deeply the principles given by Srila Rupa Goswami, like that. Nectar devotion was seen by Srila Prabhupada as so important that he had been working on a different scripture called Hari Bhakti Vilas, not Hari Bhakti Vilas. What is that? Narada Sutras? The Narada Sutras, yeah. Narada Sutras, which were the glorifications of bhakti by Sri Narada Muni. Sri Narada Sutras, yeah. And he got only the 13 verses, and then he stopped. He said, now we will do nectar devotion. It is more important. And Prabhupada concentrated on nectar devotion and presented that in the very beginning of our movement back in 1967, 1968. As he saw that this was foundational in helping us understand how to execute devotional service effectively. So the works of the Goswamis, especially Nectar Devotion, Nectar of Instructions, Sanatana Goswami's, of course, Hari Bhakti Vilas, and other writings by the Jiva Goswami's Sandarbhas, and other works by the Goswami are the foundations for the entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So we have a lot to read and study. It's a lifetime. It's not one lifetime, it's many lifetimes. So today we're taking the opportunity to speak about one great Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And although he had done so much and established the worship of Sri Radha-ramana. We don't know much about him because he didn't want anybody to write about him after he disappeared. So whatever we have you can find in the nectar, you can find in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there's other places which mention a little bit about Gopal Bhatta Goswami, but not much like that. Any questions? Comments on the Goswamis? Nectar of Devotion.
Thank you, Maharaj. I was wondering, is it recommended to read Nectar of Instruction maybe first before, like extensively reading Nectar of Instruction first before going deeper into Nectar of Devotion? Or is it okay?
I don't think there's a procedure, but Nectar of Instruction is the whole science of bhakti compacted in 11 verses. That is the most compact you can get. There's only 11 verses. And it contains the whole process of devotional service in its essence. It's there in the essence. Doesn't get into a lot of details, but it gets into the important details. What is the first? How the importance of controlling the mind and the senses and becoming fixed in devotional service is the first verse. Second verse is those 6 things that destroy bhakti. The third verse is the 6 things that enhance bhakti. The fourth verse is all about loving relationships between Vaishnavas. The fifth verse speaks about the different types of spiritual masters. The sixth verse is many of the anarthas. The seventh verse glorifies the chanting of the holy name. The eighth verse teaches us, seventh verse teaches us the process of proper chanting. The eighth verse glorifies the exclusive position of the holy name. And the 10th and the 11th verse is all about achieving perfection by attaining the highest state of Krishna consciousness, Radha Kund. So, yeah, when Prabhupada released that book, the devotees asked him, this is just for the devotees? Prabhupada said, no, this is for distribution also. So, according to your question, I think if you want to understand nectar of instructions more clearly, you first have to approach it through nectar of devotion. Nectar of devotion breaks it down into very simplified and easy to understand terminology. What are the characteristics of pure devotional service? Like that. What are the offenses? How to avoid the offenses? Like that. What is the worship? Like that. Different types of worship. But if you want to read Nectar of Instructions first, no one can stop you. Nectar of Instructions is a small book, but we've given seminars on it, and each verse, there's a whole book, a thick book, written by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, simply on the commentary of verse 2 and 3 of Nectar of Instructions. It's called Bhakti Aloka. That's a commentary on those 2 verses. The 6 things that are favorable for devotional service, the 6 things that are unfavorable for devotional service. So that book is bigger than the entire Nectar of Instructions. Just his commentary on those 2 verses. So yeah, Rupa Goswami has really compacted that one. But Prabhupada's purports make things, he expands it. Each of the verses have very long purports. You'll see 3, 4, 5, sometimes more pages on each of the verses. But whatever you inspired to do is fine. There's no rules on that. Any other questions?
I cannot find what you were mentioning, Deepika. The only thing that comes to my mind is Pancharatra Pradipa.
Pancharatra Deepika?
Pancharatra?
Pancharatra Pradipa. I think that's it. We lost this. The book that Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, is that right? Yeah. What book I was mentioning, it's available it's out in ISKCON publications, you can buy it. Sometimes you find it in different places, but it's available. It's by GOPAL BHATTA GOSWAMI. It's simply a translation of what he wrote. I'll find it. I think that's another work I think you're referring to. But Pancharatrika refers to deity worship. Yeah. Pancharatrika is the term which means the principles of worshipping the Archavigraha, incarnation of the Lord. Okay. All right, so the curtains are about to open and Arti will start. So thank you very much. Gopal Bhatta Goswami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.